Sif has recently published a book called Emotion in Old Norse Literature, Translations, Voices, Contexts. In it, she compares and contrasts Hallgerður's laughter to some other famous female characters from Eddic poems to discuss a collection of women who react differently to sorrow. I asked Sif to explain to me what she had found by comparing Hallgerður's laughing reaction to her beloved husband's death to women of the Eddic poems, particularly Guðrún Gjúkadóttir, who is overcome with grief at the death of her lover, Sigurð the Dragon Slayer.
In the Eddic poems you have a wider sort of array of emotional reactions, and in fact it's interesting, for men emotional behavior seems to be much more rigidly sort of dictated, whereas women have a broader range of emotional reactions, still within the sort of saga convention of the laconic, non-affective sort of reaction. In the Eddic poems, in some sense, Hallgerður's laughter can be compared actually to the laughter, for instance, of Högni, who laughs when Attila the Hun cuts his heart out. So they're cutting him open, the heart is taken out and put on a plate, and he's laughing while they do it. And the laughter is a means of basically suppressing and negating the underlying emotions, meaning fear or pain. So we see in Hallgerður it's a similar thing, that instead of actually crying or becoming upset, we see that she laughs like Högni as means of sort of suppressing or negating the underlying emotions. The difference with Hallgerður is that suppression is actually a means of conveying that emotion into a wetting, into the killing, into a vengeance. And we have different female behaviors, for instance in Guðrún, Gjúkadóttir, in many of the poems that describe Guðrún, or Guðrún's loss of her husband Sigurð the Dragon Slayer. In one of the poems, Guðrún Kveðin Fyrsta, or the first lay of Guðrún, they describe how Guðrún is, she's sitting next to the body of her dead husband, and the text states specifically that she was unable to lament and actually clap her hands, which is an odd thing, but so like other women would do. So obviously her behavior is against what is the common behavior, and so obviously it was a normal behavior for women to lament the death of a husband. And it isn't until later that you have an array of women with her who lament their own losses of husbands, children, parents, that she is able to sort of express her sorrow. So that is one form. But at the same time you have a different poem that describes again Guðrún's reaction, same Guðrún Gjúkadóttir's reaction to the death of her husband. And in that scene, the killers ride basically to her, and it's very similar, staged similarly to Hallgerður, who's outside when Þjóstólfur comes. So Guðrún is, she's standing outside, they ride to her, and she asks, where is my husband, since you are riding ahead? And they say, we have hacked him apart with a sword. And that sort of very violent retort is very similar to the staging of when Þjóstólfur comes back from having killed Glúmur, and Hallgerður is standing outside, and he comes and he's carrying his axe. The axe is bloody, so he's sort of hefting this bloody axe, and she asks him, what has happened? And he tells her the death of Glúmur, and he tosses or throws at her his bracelet that he's taken from the corpse. So again, you have a very violent sort of staging of this male aggressiveness, violence, that she responds to with a laughter. And in the Eddic poem, we see that there's no reaction on Guðrún's part. The only thing she says is that it will be avenged. So we have obviously a motif or a narrative motif that dictates basically female responses. In Guðrún's case, in the Eddic poem, the wetting function is staged clearly. In Hallgerður's case, it is actually not staged clearly. The smile is basically sort of a narrative motif letting us know that there is wetting and vengeance to come.